Alright, what's up guys? So in this video I'm going to go over kind of like what I do to keep my accounting on point without using a CPA. Little disclaimers: if you can afford a CPA, hire a CPA. I don't want the title of this video to be like misleading or anything. It is in your best interest to get a professional to do this. But if you're like me, this video is for people who don't quite have the cash flow to hire one yet. I'm definitely like in that between where I'm thinking about hiring one, but it's like I'm just don't quite have the cash flow yet. Hopefully after this year I'll be able to. But in the meantime, I'm doing this. So I think that there's three pillars to having your accounting more on point than at least most, as best as you can. Because again, you know, I'm not a CPA, I don't know everything, but I have a decent understanding of what needs to be tracked and everything. So right here, you can see up here, this is my 2025 media purchased. So every time I purchase something, I throw it on here, and these are all of the things that I track. Every time I throw it on here, this is what gets auto-populated through SellerAmp. And also I do have this spreadsheet in the description down below, so if you want to download it, go up here, go to file, make a copy, and then you can follow along as I'm doing this. So I track all of this right here, gets auto-populated by SellerAmp, which there's a link in the description if you want to check that out as well and follow along here. All of this gets auto-populated with SellerAmp. My date purchase, tags, the SKU doesn't get auto-populated. The SKU doesn't. We had to add that in later once you list it. But besides that, the date purchase, the tags, the ASIN, product name, Amazon URL, price that you spent, and I'll show you how to add that in there. And also the check-in. Okay, that doesn't, gosh darn it, that also doesn't get auto-populated. Once you receive it, or if you have a prep center, once that they receive it, you'll check it in. That way you kind of have everything on point and don't miss anything. And then the amount that you bought. This is a little nuanced, I'll explain that later. And then everything in this area right here, I actually got from Joji. He has a video going over this, pretty much the same spreadsheet. He has a little more that he's tracking right here that I track over here in the totals a little bit. So we have a little bit of differences in that, but if you want to go watch his video, he does break it down pretty well. So there is a few formulas that I have in here, like this one. I don't think there is any over here. This one, and then these, of course. So I want to break this down. If you have any questions, throw them down in the chat. If you're watching live, and if you're watching after the fact, I do read all the comments and everything. So if you want to throw a question down there, I'll help answer it. But anyways, so how I auto-populate this. In the spreadsheet down below, I've left this first one in here, so you can click on it and follow along with me. You can see that this one I have sold already. The profit, I made $5 on it. It's green. And so really what I do is, like I mentioned earlier, SellerAmp, link in the description down below. You can, with SellerAmp, one of the biggest awesome things that you can do is you can come in here and set up all these tags. These tags I've put in here myself. So I've put in Prep Center, and if I click this right here, it's going to auto-populate the cost that I put in here, and also where's the quantity at? Oh, I might have taken the quantity out. But right now it just auto-populates quantity 1, which is what I want it to be. I don't want it to auto-populate anymore, because see, as you can see, I've got 2 of these exact same books here. You're going to auto-populate each one in here. So you want a line for each individual book that you've purchased, even if it's the same book or not. And as soon as I click this button right here, not my 2024 one, my 2025 one, I'll click it there, and then if I go, this makes it go down too fast. We get to the bottom of this, do this. You can see that it's auto-populated up to the quantity part. So it's auto-populated the price plus shipping, which I'll always add in the seller amp. Like I won't put what the price is, I'll put the price plus the shipping here. So it'll auto-populate there, and it'll auto-populate the quantity as well as the title, the ASIN, the prep center, and the date that I did it. Now, let's delete that because I didn't buy that. But that's after I've purchased it. If I purchased it, I throw it in here, it auto-populates. Then comes where if I want all of this here, so this first one's going to be in there already. So what I do is I'll highlight it and then I'll just bring down what is right here so that it auto-populates down, because there's several formulas in here. Now let's go back to the prep center thing. So you can see that I have Amazon, eBay. So if I am selling on eBay as well, so this part may not pertain to you. Maybe but it could pertain to you self-prepping. As you can see on my seller amp, I have a self-prep option. So if I have this tag in there and I put it in there, there's going to be a distinct difference. I know there's a button I can press to get down to the bottom of this a lot easier, but I don't know it. All right, here we go. So you can see that it changes colors here because I have a conditional, conditional formatting, to where whenever it says prep center, it's this color. Whenever it's self-prep, it's this color. But also, whenever I bring this data down, which I need to get all of this, when I bring this data down, I also have no 225 doesn't drop down. And that's because I have this formula here that if it says prep center, it's going to add 225 there, because obviously my prep center adds that cost to each individual book. If I'm doing it myself, I don't have that, so I don't have to add that. If I have, or another example, if I have eBay, which I also use, I don't auto-populate that. So if you are using this, you don't need this if you don't have a prep center, because you're obviously not ever going to get extra charge for prep fee. But if you do, this is an option that I think is a valuable option. Now, the next thing is, once we have all this pulled up in here, once it sells, you're going to add the date sold. And then this is going to auto-populate. It's going to take A2, which is the date you purchased, and then it's going to have L2, which is the date it's sold. And then I don't really remember why D's in there, but anyways, it takes the difference between this date and that date, and it tells you that it took you 102 days from the time that you purchased it to sell it. And then, which is very valuable if you are looking to reprint books. If you sell something within 2 months, 3 months, that's a really fast moving book, from the day that you purchased it, at least. Okay, so then you put your sale price, you put your proceeds, which is $15.31 for this one. Then it'll minus these two sales to get the fee price. Then obviously it adds the prep fee is $2.25. Then the MISC fee, which I just always add a 1 here. There's no rhyme or reason. To be conservative, there's always hidden charges you don't think about, like your storage fees or your printing paper or whatever you can think of. I just throw a $1 fee for every book, and that gets me my profit of $5.09. And you can see that, like, this one hasn't sold yet, and it's red because it has a negative number. It has the shipping price minus the $2.25 that it took to prep it, minus the MISC fee, which gives me the $9.85. So that's pretty much everything. I also have where this will auto-populate for me. I just like, if I don't have anything in G2, say this is empty, is because it got canceled or returned, and because everyone knows that for some reason you get a lot of cancels in this business, and whenever you're ordering like online arbitrage for books. So I always put that on there. So if that's empty, it just tells me that it got canceled or returned. You can put any notes in here you want. I just want that for my main reasonings. There's not a whole lot of others, since I keep track of everything so fast. Now, this, how I find all this, I use another tool called Sellerboard. Sellerboard is where I grab all of my my sales and my estimated payout. So if we use this one as an examples and explanations, that's pretty funny. We use this one. What I'll do is every day I'll come in here. If you've seen my other lives, you know my admin work, where I'll come in here, I'll take this title, I'll throw it in here. My computer will go. I'll throw it in here. And then you can see that I've updated it this morning. I updated it for selling at yesterday. It took 51 days to sell. I made the sell price at $51. That's funny. And then the proceeds is the estimated payout for this is $36.03. So I put $36.03. So that tells me that the Amazon fees were $14.97. My prep fee obviously is getting taken out. My MISC fee is getting taken out. So I'll have $10.37 in profit for that. You look over here, it shows $13.62 profit, and that's because my seller board doesn't add in the prep minus the prep fee and minus the MISC fee. It does that. Seller board does that through the expenses. Like whenever my prep center charges me, I throw in what it charged me and everything. So that's how that gets done on the back end, not really on the front. So you'll see what you get, and then it'll come out as like on the month, like as you add in your expenses, you'll see the net profit reflect what your expenses are and all that. So those three kind of work in together. My Google Sheets, it works together with SellerAmp, which both of those work together with Sellerboard. And that's kind of how I keep track of all of that. But the most important part about this spreadsheet is probably the totals tab. So over here is your everyday. I guess what I did forget to mention. So obviously once it gets into the prep center, you check it in, or it gets to you check it in. But once you get it sent into Amazon and you have a SKU number, you're going to add it into the SKU page, because you could have several different books and they may have different SKUs. Sometimes you can do it all in one. I just kind of let it go to how it is, but my prep center listed how it is. So the same book's going to have a different SKU number. So I'm going to always put that in. That way, if I have a question about a certain book or why it sold, I'll come in here and I'll take it, paste it into my manage inventory tab and on Amazon Seller Central, and then I'll have a better understanding of exactly what happened with the book and stuff. But there's another, what's new? Oh, okay. I'll paste the SKU right here, and then I'll find the book and I'll search it. But also SellerAmp is another great thing. You don't necessarily need the SKU unless you're doing some other Google Sheets work, because that's kind of why I started doing it. In case I ever need to do a different Google Sheets work, I can pull that exact SKU and be able to plug it into that Google Sheet. I ran into issues with that last year, so this year I've just been really on point with the SKU. But really, SellerAmp there's another huge thing that you can do. So like, I don't think I have this in inventory anymore, but if you want to see it in inventory, if you do have it in inventory, yeah, I don't have it here, but it shows that I've sold 2 units, the sales at 52 average. And then also you can see when it sold, who it sold to, and what price it sold. And so always come here if you have a question like, well, where is this book? Like, what happened to this book? Or if you missed it, if you didn't quite, get it in here, but you can see that it's stranded or something, but there's no inventory in, so you can see like, okay, I don't see it here. does tell you it's units sold there, but you can come in here and see like the details of everything and click on the order number and figure it out. So that is pretty much everything on this sheet. Now we'll move over to here. Now, the biggest thing that I ran into this year with my my tax person and what they needed from me was right here, this valuation of remaining stock. So I haven't quite figured out how to like end it on a certain date. The best I can say for formula wise, I'm sure there's a way out there. If y'all know how to do it, please, let me know down in the comments. But I pretty much need to know how much my stock is valued. So you can see that I've spent $13,000 this year so far, minus what is sold. So that's GG, minus LL, minus that. So that gives me my total of what I still have in stock. So the best I can say is that at the end of the year, like on, December 31st, once it ends, you take this number and you save it, and then you do that with each year too, because I don't just have 2025, obviously I have more, and then you total those up, and that will be your valuation of the remaining stock that you have, because that was the biggest number that I didn't know how to get for my tax guy, and that's a big one that is going to help us. So let's go through this. Total spent is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to go through all of your price and shipping. It's going to go through all. It's going to go through all the G, and it's going to tell you. Can't remember what tab I'm on. It's going to tell you the exact number that you've spent. Obviously, number of books. Going to go through the total number of books that you've purchased, which is going to be all the quantity. So that's nice to have. And then averages, it's nice to see your average book cost. Mine's way higher this year than it was last year. I'm going for more expensive books this year, trying to get a little bit less inventory, but higher, sales. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of my goal with that. So that's why that's higher. Average sale price is nice to see. I don't really ever use it, but if I ever need it, it's there. And then average proceeds is nice. This is also another one with books left in stock. My tax guy didn't ask about that, but just kind of nice to know. And then this is what I think is probably the most important thing to keep track of is right here. So each one of these has its date range in here, as you can see. So we got January 1st to January 31st. And obviously, in January, I spent $3,078, and I've bought a total of 133 books. That's really important to keep track of, make sure you're building every month. Like, if your goal is to spend a certain amount, there you go. You have what you spent. If your goal is to buy a certain amount, there you go. That you got your number of media that you bought. So all of these, as you can see, as we go into the future, it'll update once it gets here. And so I don't really have to do anything. I just have to make sure that I'm filling this stuff out, continuing on into the next month. And once the next month starts, this will start auto-populating right here. And I think this is probably one of the most important things that you want to track. Not really for tax purposes, but for your own goal purposes, and like making sure you're staying on track, making sure you're building. I wasn't doing this before. I didn't do this last year and stuff. And then I went back and updated everything for last year. And it was like, oh my goodness, like I did really good this month, and I did horrible this month. And I did really good this month, So it's really nice to be able to keep yourself accountable and on track and stuff. And now comes the part where I'm definitely talking over my head, like, use it for a grain of salt. But like the thing that I'm not tracking here that you have to do in order to, be compliant with your tax guy, with your CPA or whatever, in order to be compliant with your accounting, you have to have a way to track your bank transactions. And I'm not going to go too deep into this, but what I do is I use QuickBooks. I'm not going to sign in or anything. There's a lot of bank information in there that I don't want to post on or put on the internet. But I use QuickBooks, and I'll be the first one to tell you I have no idea what I am doing when it comes to QuickBooks. But I do know that what I'm doing in there is at least I'm reconciling everything, which means that every time a bank charge comes in, I'm, saying, put it in this category, and, this is how, or this is the date, and yada, 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 making sure that I have everything on point with that. Now, like I said, I don't know anything about this. So this is what I do for everything is ChatGPT. And I know the first thing y'all are thinking like, oh great, AI crap. It's like, I was the same way until I started like getting in here. You can do it for free for a while. I pay for the plus just because you can literally all of these cells that I've created in here. I put my spreadsheet in here into GPT and said, hey, make this cell do this, and it created it for me. I'm not like a guru when it comes to the spreadsheets. I have no idea what I'm doing, but this really helps. So like say like one of my biggest questions is I borrowed a loan last year and I was adding like the full amount, which was $500 a month. And I asked ChatGPT how to categorize a loan repayment, and I was just throwing in the $500 like fully, and what it did is it told me that I'm throwing in the interest only, so it's 500, but everything, if you combine both of them, that's not really what your expense is. What your expense is this $100 in interest, if that's what it is. You got to figure what your interest is with the loan. So I had to go back and I had to update everything, that all my $500 payments wasn't actually an expense. It was actually $100 payments was my expense. And that's just an example of like, how it helps, how it can help you like get through to everything. It really, really does help you narrow things down. And now the last thing, once you've done all of this, you've got your every time you purchase something, you throw it in here. Every time you make a charge, you throw it in QuickBooks, and you ask ChatGPT, how the heck do I categorize this in QuickBooks? And it tells you everything's on point. Oh, and also seller board. There is a link in the description down below if you want to check that out. But once you have all this done, there is one more thing that I do to be completely tax compliant and make sure that everything is on point. I have all of my receipts right here. So all of these receipts I have right here. So every time I purchase a book, it comes in here. And what I do is every time I purchase a book and I get an email, I'll click these three little dots, I'll come down here, and then I'll click receipts, which I already have it clicked, so I'm not clicking it. But I'll click receipts right there. And then that auto-populates it into this tab where you add a label here. I put Amazon, and then I put all my canceled orders is right there. All my receipts are right there. And then if a customer returns it, I just like to keep that in there as well. But the main important one is receipts, and I'm guessing canceled orders as well, but I know that the most important one is receipts. So if by chance you get audited and that your tax guy's like, hey, we need all of your receipts from last year, then you're just gonna come in here, download this onto your Google Drive, and boom, send it to them, and you're good to go. That's how I get through and make sure I'm tax compliant without using a CPA, And like I said at the beginning, if you can afford it, hire a CPA. They are invaluable, and I can't wait to hire one because, all of this work, even though like I'm used to it now, I do all of my tax stuff on the 10th and 25th. The profit first method. The book says, don't worry about accounting except for 2 times a month, and that's the 10th and 25th. And that's just to make sure that you're not getting overwhelmed by, accounting stuff every day, and you're not randomly doing it. And, you can go in and see, you paid off your credit cards on the 10th and then the 25th, and you can be like, okay, that was a credit card. It's just a little more clean when you do it that way. But yeah, that's how I do my accounting stuff without a CPA. If you have any questions, please, throw it in the comments down below. I would love to answer them. I read everything. And, I'm again, I'm not an expert at this. I don't get paid to be an accountant or anything, but I've put a lot of effort into trying to learn this, and this is what I've got. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.